So this third pregnancy was unplanned and was met with some challenges, some fear, some anxiety that he might also have a rare disease, and all the emotions that go into the possibility of having two children with rare life-threatening diseases.
Did you know the average woman spends 7 years of her life dealing with period pain? WaveBy believes it's time to get those years back. Founded by an OBGYN, WaveBy is the first science-backed solution that regulates menstrual cycle and reduces period pain before it even starts. WaveBy has 3 products. By Irregularity from WaveBy is designed to help your cycle find its rhythm again. Packed with clinically studied nutrients like inositol, magnesium, and chasteberry, By Irregularity supports healthy ovulation, hormone balance, and smoother, more predictable cycles without prescription or hormones. By Cramps and By Bad Cramps are the proactive premenstrual products that target the prostaglandin messengers that cause cramps and heavy bleeding, so your life doesn't have to stop every month. Think of it as the new Midol, backed by science, built by women, and designed to keep you feeling like yourself. Join the thousands who have already said it's absolutely life-changing, including myself. I've been taking this product every day for nearly 6 months. I take By Irregularity and By Cramps, and it has absolutely reduced my cramping and regulated my cycle. It is super predictable. So head to waveby.co and use the code Lindsey Cortes for 10% off. Say bye to irregular or painful cycles and hi to your true rhythm. Because when your cycle's in sync, everything else just flows. Lindsey Cortes for 10% off your WaveBy purchase.
Hey fans and listeners, it's Lindsey Elizabeth Cortes, registered dietitian, sports dietitian, and your host of the podcast. Well, historically, I release one episode every week. And if you've been following, you might notice that I haven't released an episode in quite a few weeks. So the first half of today's episode is an explanation as to why and a little background, kind of what to expect for the future of this podcast. And then the second half of this episode, we're going to go over some basics of nutrition throughout pregnancy. So let's dive into it with the personal update and the podcast update, which is why I haven't released an episode in the past 6 weeks. Well, back in the very beginning of January, end of December, I did move across the country and my husband started a new job, which brings, family changes and challenges, and there's a lot that goes into moving. And what I didn't notify you at the time was that I was also pregnant. It was an unexpected pregnancy, or I am still pregnant. At the time of recording this, I'm 31 weeks pregnant, and probably by the time you're listening, at least 32 weeks pregnant. So I've just got 8 weeks to go until baby number 3 is here. And what was going on in my life at the time, although I feel blessed to bring another child into this world, some of you may know, again, if you're following my life, which I don't expect you to, but I have 2 children already, and my second son has a rare disease that actually is genetic. So this third pregnancy was unplanned and was met with some challenges, some fear, some anxiety that he might also have a rare disease, and all the emotions that go into the possibility of having 2 children with rare life-threatening diseases. Our lives have not been easy the past nearly 3 years. My second son turns 3 this month. And again, this was his disease. You can actually learn more about it if you're interested to know more, because it has to do with nutrition, which is wild. His disease is 100% managed by nutrition, but it is challenging. It is unique. It is rare. It is life-threatening on a daily basis. And if you are interested in learning more about glycogen storage disease, you can go back to episode number 140, where I shared about my newborn's medical condition and a life update. And then episode number 143, where I dove into a little bit more of the specifics about the nutrition piece of glycogen storage disease, and also just like focusing on how nutrition does need to be so individualized for everybody. So that I think just, understanding like, oh, this is healthy, this is not, but it's like, well, that everybody's dealing with their own unique things, and what is right for one person's body might not be right for another. Because as a dietitian, there are things that my child cannot eat that I would recommend to other people, right? So, anyways, that's episode number 140 and 143. And getting back to the current situation, I say this was an unplanned pregnancy, so it came as a surprise. And I obviously do know as an adult how to prevent pregnancy as an adult married woman, but birth control methods do have a percentage like efficacy rate, right? And the way I was doing it was about 94% efficient when done properly. And it's crazy. I look back on my logs and I'm kind of in shock. Like how did this happen? So I think I've settled on the reality that I'm the 6%, I'm the 6 out of 1,000 people that might get pregnant in a year if you follow this birth control method. Even the pill or something that's 99.9% effective, 0.1% of people still get pregnant on birth control. This can happen. And I believe that's what happened to me. And so more to this as well. We were at the time we were in some ways excited because we did want another child. And in fact, that was part of our struggles after Levi's birth, was not just dealing with his medical condition and how it's greatly impacted our family on every single level, from work to finances to how we interact with each other to how we care for our children to our inability to go on a vacation to just all the medical appointments, the extra duties, the complete lack of sleep. Everybody, every parent is sleep deprived. Every parent of a newborn is sleep deprived. I will tell you, parents of children with glycogen storage disease, their biggest risk to life is overnight. I haven't slept in 3 years. So I'm like half exaggerating when I say that. Obviously I have slept, but also like not really. That's still a huge struggle in our lives. So getting back to the point here, that was part of our like, there's so much going on in our life, but it was also part of my grieving that, wow, I thought I was grieving my life and our life, our vision of our life. I never expected to be a medical mom or have a child with medical needs, nor did I think that my possibility of having children might, be cut down, like kind of with a genetic disease in your family. It was kind of like, well, okay, I guess I'm not having another child because this is too great of a risk. And then it happened unexpectedly. So, won't get into the details. We will be taking different measures to prevent pregnancy again in the future, but with understanding, oh, I'm pregnant. Then I had first trimester nausea, preparing to move across the country. I moved across the country, had all this fear and anxiety. What's going to happen with this baby? What does that mean for our lives? What does that mean for my current child's life with this condition and my other child who doesn't have the condition, but how would it affect him? I was carrying a big burden. Moved, my immune system was down. I got sick with strep throat twice. Levi got sick. Fortunately, we were able to keep him away from the hospital, but I mean, it was hard in January and February, and I didn't have childcare set up yet. And I'm going to fast forward to some good news. You can get a procedure done for in utero genetic testing if you have a strong genetic risk of something. So I got that procedure done, amniocentesis, it's called. You can get it done as early as 15 weeks. You don't want to you don't want to get it done too early. It's a high risk procedure if you get it done too early. You also don't want to get it done too late, because what they do is they actually stick a really, really big needle into your belly. I did not look, my eyes were closed, and they pull out amniotic fluid. It's so interesting how amniotic fluid has, skin cells of your baby and urine from your baby inside your belly, and you can test the genes for that. And we knew exactly which gene we were testing for. Again, you don't want to do it too late in pregnancy, because then the risk of an early preterm birth is high. So I got it done. I actually got it done at 21 weeks, which was slightly late, but it's because I had just moved and needed to set up brand new medical care. I got it done. The results took a couple weeks to come back, but somewhere around week 24 of pregnancy, I finally did learn that this new baby does not have glycogen storage disease. In fact, they tested him for everything at that time while they were out. He appears to be healthy. So that was a huge stress relief, a huge burden I was carrying that I could just put down. It was just highly emotional. That was 24 weeks of crazy emotions to be prepared and ready and accepting of whatever it might be. Of course, I prayed he would be healthy. And yet I also had to come to terms and accept that he might not be, and really dig deep and be strong that it was all going to be okay no matter what. But I never want to say like, oh, we're so blessed that he doesn't have it, because like he very easily could have, and we would have been blessed either way. I'm blessed to have my son who does have it, right? It's so difficult to deal with these emotions when you're in this like medical this world of being a mother to a medically challenging child. It's just it's so interesting. Like I I wish that Levi did not have this disease, and yet I'm in a hospital sitting next to kids with other diseases, and I'm like, well, you never want to weigh which one's better or worse, but there's some things that you're like, well, I'm glad I feel blessed that that's not our situation. But then it's like, well, what are those people sitting there thinking? We don't want them to feel bad about their life either, right? It's so complex. So, anyways, it's good news that this baby is healthy. And then I might have already dropped it. I said he a couple times. It is a boy. I'm having boy number 3. I am a boy mom through and through now. Holy moly. I was also praying for a girl. I wanted a healthy baby and a baby that was going to be a girl. It was not a girl. At one point, I was also praying for twins. I thought, well, seeing as I'm not going to go through another pregnancy, let's knock out 2 babies in one shot. That didn't happen either, which was probably also a blessing. Twins sound really difficult. But yeah, I'm having another boy. So wish me luck, because I can tell you, as a mom to 2 toddler boys now, who's nearing 4.5 and basically 3, so 4 and 3. And, boys have boy energy. And mine do. Like I don't push the trucks on them. I'm actively like, let's read books, let's play an imagination game, let's do a craft. But these boys just want to pick up sticks and play sword fighting. They want to wrestle. They love, being Hulk and Spider-Man and Venom. And like, they've never watched Venom, by the way. They're 4 and 3, but somewhere in the world there was a Venom toy that they thought he was so cool, and they're obsessed with Venom because he looked so cool. If you know what Venom is, he's a creepy looking dude. So they are boys through and through. They are highly active and they do boy things. And I, as a mother, am now fully invested in being a boy mom now that number 3 is coming on the way. And yeah, so there's been so much in my life, and that's why I finally hired a babysitter to help me out a little bit, but it's like, oh, she's watching the kids while I go to my OB appointments, not necessarily so that I can record podcasts and work. And my husband does have a new job. He's doing a great job helping out with childcare as well. And yet he's also traveling a lot. So I've been solo parenting multiple days and nights in a row with him gone. And, this is just not the phase in my life for lots of work. And this has been coming. Again, if you've listened to the podcast episode, or you were a listener 3 years ago when my son was born, I had these regular updates of like my business was thriving. And when he was born, everything changed because he could not go to a childcare place. I can't just have a babysitter watch him. I needed to hire a nurse so that I could work. And eventually we found a nurse that was decent for our family, and the situation worked out for a while, and I got back into work a little bit, about 8 to 10 hours a week. And then in moving here, the reason I didn't want to hire a nurse is because I didn't know if I was going to need a nurse for the new baby. And so I was like, I don't want to hire a nurse for Levi if I need a nurse for the new baby. We found out we don't need a nurse for the new baby, and we are now looking into hiring a night nurse for Levi. But I'm embracing being a full-time stay-at-home mom right now. I know that I have a lot to give this community as far as nutrition, being a dietitian, a sports dietitian. I'm I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and there's parts of me that knows I could still do so much more. In fact, this was another layer of emotions that I've been dealing with for the past 3 years since I had to unexpectedly stop work to take care of my son. And the business like kind of slowly fizzled out. And, I had people working under me. I had another dietitian that I had hired. I had to let her go because I could not keep it up. And there was many aspects of that I felt like a failure in business, or I felt like, why can't I do it all? I also, as much as I did always want to be married and become a mom, I had worked so hard for my career. I have a master's degree. Like, being a sports dietitian wasn't an easy path. And I think I'm pretty darn good at it. I've had a lot of success with my clients and in business, and I really love what I do. It wasn't something that I was ready to let go of yet. I envisioned a life where I was at least working part-time or working from home while raising children, and it was suddenly like, I can't do this anymore. And I grieved the loss of my identity as somebody who worked. I grieved the loss of my business that I had worked so hard for. And there were many feelings of like, I felt like a failure in there, or I felt like I could be doing more. I felt like maybe I was letting the community down, or I was getting left behind as the rest of the world was continuing to go to these sports nutrition conferences and do really amazing things. I was like, I could be doing that too. I should be speaking at that event. And there I was at home, with two under two and a sick kid. And I would say only in the past like 6 to 12 months, like really in the past 6 months since moving, or maybe in the past year, have I finally not just accepted, but embraced that I do not need to work right now. And some of you, I want you to know, if you are a mom or someday become a mom and you do work, like, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not saying I'm doing it right by being full-time stay at home. There's just case by case situations, okay? And what works for you? Because I will tell you, when I stopped working as a family, we took a huge financial hit. It's 3 years later now that I can say, now we are at a place where we no longer rely on my income. We took a huge financial hit. We went into some debt, and I'm so proud that we crawled ourselves out and we've readjusted to being a single income family. But we were operating as a dual income family, and I had to stop work suddenly, and we took a hit for that. So, some people are like, I have to work because I have to pay the bills. And so I'm sitting here saying like, oh, I don't need to work anymore. I don't need to work. But that did not come easy. We worked hard the past 3 years so that I don't need to work. So we've adjusted financially, and it took changes and life changes and moving, and we sold our house and I sold cars. Like, we did work. We did work. We went to counseling as a couple to help us through some of these financial issues. Like, we did the work. So I'm not being like, I'm not that's like a back and forth conversation in the mom world of like stay at home mom versus working mom, like which one's harder, blah, blah, blah. It's a stupid conversation. They're both hard. And at the end of the day, you're going to do what's right for your family, your children. And I'm circling back to this podcast now at this time in my life, focusing on my family and raising these 3 boys. That is the most important thing to me. And as much as I know that my brain and my ability and capacity to have an amazing sports nutrition business or contribute to this world of female athlete nutrition, but it's not my time to shine in that area. How many episodes have I had? Oh my gosh, I've had 258 episodes of podcasts. 258. I can guarantee if you're listening to this right now, you have not listened to all 258 free episodes. Never mind all the free content on social media. Never mind some free resources on my website. Like, it's just, and I'm not the only one creating this stuff, right? There's tons of nutrition information out there. So I've done the work. I've put in the time. I've created the educational material. And I don't need to, I'm at a point where I've accepted I don't need to keep doing this. So moving forward, Will there be a weekly episode? Probably not. But please go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now because there will be episodes. I did actually have a babysitter this week so that I could record an episode with a guest. I've got another 2 more guests booked in next month, hopefully before the baby arrives. And if I do have something on my mind that I want to share, I can record a solo episode whenever. And maybe when this baby is 3 months old and I'm just losing my mind in newborn stage, I'm going to be like, tell my husband or tell the babysitter, come on over because I want to get to work. I need to use my brain in a way that isn't nap schedules and breastfeeding and sleep routines and wake windows and all that stuff. That the newborn phase can definitely drain your brain because there's there's so few things to do, and yet it is so challenging to do them. So I want you to hit subscribe because this podcast is not over. But I can't guarantee there will be an episode next week because I've already recorded it. I can't guarantee the same upkeep that I did in the past. And I think the other message I'm trying to get across here is I'm also just sharing that I'm this is coming from such a happy place. Finally, I think I've been back and forth with business and motherhood over the past 3 years, and I'm finally at a place where I'm choosing to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to. And it's a little interesting too because I grew up in an era, whether it was, where I grew up or my parental influence, I don't know. I had sisters, so I would say that we're quite feminist in the belief of women can do anything. We're going to go to college, we're going to have jobs, we can do anything we want. And I never looked down on a traditional role of a woman or a housewife or a stay-at-home mom. I never looked down on that. And yet, I think I did have undertones of a belief that there was something greater out there in the pursuit of my degree and a career and establishing a business or making money or even just these are undertones in athletics too. Women always breaking barriers, proving that we can be just as strong, as fast, as capable, physically just as talented. We can make just as have fans be just as interested in our sports as male sports. There's this this is just something of our times, of the present day, and of how I grew up. That was very much encouraging in a good way that you can be and do anything you want to do. But there were undertones of therefore don't settle, right? Don't settle to be a traditional married housewife, home caretaker, something like that. And I'm just sitting here today telling you I love it. I've been the happiest I've ever been the past 6 months. Well, ever been? I don't know about that, but I've been very happy. I've been very, very happy the last 6 months that I have really embraced being a stay-at-home mom. Because being a stay-at-home mom is very hard. Very, very hard. In fact, it's the hardest job I've ever done. It is. It is the hardest job I've ever done. It is the most exhausting. It can be the most stressful. It can be the most lonely. That's why it's the hardest. And yet it is the most important job I've ever done. And therefore it's the most fulfilling and rewarding that I've ever done. And what's cool about it is my children will continue to age and things will change. Certain aspects of life will get easier. Some might get more challenging. Like when my boys go through puberty, oh my God, that's going to be when my husband really needs to step in. They'll eventually move out of the house, but I'll forever be mom. And I know that because, just the other day when my son was sick, there I am texting my mom, sending her pictures of a rash on his back. This is okay, right? We just all need our moms. We all need our moms. And too bad I couldn't release this episode last week as a Mother's Day episode, but happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And I also want to pause and as I'm gushing over motherhood, I also want to pause and let you know if you're listening and for any reason you are not or cannot be a mother, even though that was your heart's desire, whether it be infertility or you haven't found the right partner, or the adoption process is just grueling, my heart goes out to you. And as much as I am gushing about being a mother, know that you still have value in this world as a woman, whether it be through your job or through being an amazing aunt or through being an amazing sister or just being a wonderful child and daughter of God. You are a daughter of God, right? And I say this because it's so important to embrace your femininity and your womanhood beyond just motherhood. Maybe you're a dog mom, or maybe you're just that best friend that can support other women going through these things, and you can hold your identity in things that are not motherhood. So my heart goes out to you, and I still greatly value you in this world. And for those of you who are early in motherhood or thinking about being a mom or whatever stage of motherhood you're in, maybe you're this is a female athlete podcast, right? So you're like, I'm here for the sports nutrition. I'm here to compete. But someday, if you choose to become a mom, you're going to have that battle of like, whoa, what is my body going through? Where did my time just go? Who's going to watch the kids so that I can train? And the easy answer should be your husband, but your husband might also have a job too, right? And then it's childcare. And then we have so many complex issues and questions that moms go through. And I just want to be one person in this world, because there's a lot of different voices speaking about what women should do, the best way to raise your children. I just want to be one voice in this world to say that being a stay-at-home mom right now, I see my children thriving, and I see that I actually, as much as some days I don't have time to shower or pee without chaos happening, if I were to add work on top of that, my stress levels would be way too high. And I know, because that's what I was trying to do the last few years, excuse me. The last few years, I was trying to do all the things of motherhood and run a business, and it wasn't working. So now, if I ask my husband, hey, when you come home from work, you got to watch the kids for an hour because I got to go do stuff. Now it's like, I can go to the store in peace, or I can go for a walk, or I can exercise, or I can breathe instead of rushing off to do a client call or record a podcast. I hope that makes sense.
Fans, I'm pausing the conversation again to check in on you. Are you concerned that you have REDS? That's relative energy deficiency in sport. It's a syndrome of not ideal health consequences and performance consequences that all stem from the idea that you're not fueling optimally or fueling enough for your sport needs. I've become an expert in this over the years because, unfortunately, a lot of female athletes struggle with this. We have research that shows sometimes up to 90% of female athletes might be suffering from at least one of the side effects of REDS. Other research says that up to 45% of female athletes are struggling with disordered eating. These are big statistical numbers, and I don't like it. I'm here to help you become fierce, fit, and fueled. So first and foremost, head to lindseycortes.com/REDS to learn more about REDS, listen to past podcast episodes, and take our free REDS quiz to see if this might be a concern for you. From there, I've got 3 ways to help you. 1, download the REDS Recovery Guide and start taking action right away. 2, join our REDS Recovery membership. For a very affordable $15 a month, you will have access to me as a sports dietitian to educate and empower you to fuel better. We meet once a week for live calls, Q&A. You have access to the recordings if you can't join live, and a community group chat to support, encourage, and motivate you along the way to fuel fiercely. Last, spots are limited for one-on-one help, but I can help you personally through one-on-one coaching, be it my Fast Track program, the Female Athlete System of Transformation, or perhaps Fuel School, depending on your age. All of that is on my website, lindseycortes.com. But because one-on-one spots are limited, I really want to encourage you to join the REDS Recovery membership. We live in a world where it's very easy to just pop online, read an article, listen to a podcast, and I think we do a decent job at getting information out there, but we all need someone to talk to and really ask those personal questions, and also be open and honest in a community that's going to support you in your fueling needs and goals. And that's exactly what this membership is. So only $15 a month. We meet once a week, and you will be provided with so much education and empowerment and support. I know you won't regret joining. Head to lindseycortes.com/REDS, and there you will see the REDS Recovery membership that you can join us this week. It's time for you to be fierce, fit, and fueled.
All right. Well, I said the first half of the episode would be about my personal life update and what that means for this podcast. I went a little longer than I wanted. I apologize. It's easy for me to ramble. So, I will spend the next 10 minutes going over some basics of nutrition throughout pregnancy. And I also think, like, maybe before this baby comes, I would like to schedule in one more guest who's maybe an expert on this, because I am not a pregnancy nutrition expert. I'm not a baby nutrition expert, but just as a dietitian, I have a lot of knowledge. And then as somebody going through it, I have that experience to share. Okay, so again, really, really basics. There are 3 trimesters, or about 12, 13 weeks in length. So week 1 to 12, and then week 13 through 20, I think technically 28, and then third trimester starts 28 up until week 40. Children are usually born between week 38 and 40. Some women do go to week 41 or 42, which is, oh man, I hope I don't go to week 42, because it gets real hard those last few weeks. But in the first trimester, there's not too much as far as additional nutrition needs. It is wise to, if you are of childbearing age, maybe be on a prenatal vitamin mineral supplement, because if you do get pregnant, those first few weeks is when, and first trimester is a lot of neural tube development, and folate is extremely important for that. Women do have increased folate needs throughout pregnancy. And so if you can start that right away when you find out you're pregnant, or maybe even be on something just if you are of childbearing age or engaging in activities that might result in a pregnancy, then being on either a prenatal or at least a multivitamin that has increased folic acid might be helpful. But there's otherwise not really any big increased nutrition needs other than the folate. But one of the biggest problems in first trimester is many women experience a lot of nausea. I have experienced nausea and morning sickness, as they call it, even though it's not morning, it's all day long. I found it got worse as the day progressed, because it's like I've been dealing with feeling sick for the last 6 hours and now I'm just miserable. So, nausea, upset stomach, food aversions, throwing up. I experienced it with all 3 of my pregnancies. This last pregnancy may have been the worst because I was having an aversion to water. Water tasted disgusting to me. And so I was struggling to stay hydrated because I couldn't drink water. And I was trying all the drinks. I tried all the electrolytes. I was just disgusted by hydration. It was the weirdest thing. So that really sucked, because in addition to like nausea and kind of not having an appetite or ability to cook meals, it was like I just had to tell my husband, like, go pick up sandwiches for dinner. I can't even think about food. I'm going to be sick. I'm going to throw up. And I was throwing up. But I think the fact that I wasn't properly hydrating was a huge issue. And I knew it. I was like, I know I'm dehydrated, but water tasted bad. I was buying bottled waters. I finally found, as ridiculous as this is, those pH alkaline waters, bottled waters, which I like, the science does not check out regarding balancing your pH within your body. That does not check out. So, as a registered dietitian, I'm not like, oh, you need alkaline water to balance your pH in your body. Absolutely not. No way. The science does not check out. However, it was the only water after like 2 weeks of buying different types of bottled water, because I could not do tap water. It was the only water that tasted decent enough for me to drink. And so I was breaking the bank buying alkaline water just to stay hydrated. People often recommend having some electrolytes as well throughout your sickness and nausea during first trimester. I was really struggling to find an electrolyte drink that I like too. There are tons that I like when it comes to sports nutrition. None of them tasted good during pregnancy. I settled on bottles of Prime electrolyte drinks that I had never tried before, but there was one flavor, the Blue Freeze, that I could chug down. So yeah, I was buying, that was ridiculous that I couldn't even drink water without feeling sick this past pregnancy. And also another thing is, like, simple carbohydrates probably feel easiest for you during first trimester to consume. So like just like toast, plain Cheerios, pasta, just like plain simple carbohydrates help settle your stomach if you are feeling nauseous or if you're throwing up. Things that are greasy, high fat, even high protein, they don't settle in your stomach well. They don't taste good. Have you ever eaten like vegetables or a salad and then gotten sick and thrown up? It's miserable. So it's really gross. I've done it plenty of times. And so first trimester, you're going to rely more on those easy digesting carbohydrates to just settle your stomach. However, the reality is that in order to curb your nausea, it is important to add protein and add some healthy fats and add some fiber to your meals. So, kind of the tips to manage your nausea during first trimester is to have smaller meals more frequently. Sometimes the simple like rise and fall of blood sugar might be inducing nausea. So, eating like every 2 to 3 hours to help prevent any blood sugar spikes or blood sugar drops might help prevent nausea. Staying hydrated. And although you might want to focus more on those easy, simple digesting carbohydrates. You do want to hold yourself accountable to get some chicken in there, get some beef in there, get some eggs in there. Not only does the baby need this nutrition, but it will help manage the nausea better. It's just really hard because your brain doesn't want to think about food. Like you swing between feeling sick and feeling starving, but you just it's really hard to meal prep. So when you're feeling okay, capitalize on that. Come up with some smoothie recipe ideas, make some pancakes and buy some food like Greek yogurt that you're like, okay, next time I'm feeling sick, I'm going to have pancakes and Greek yogurt, those simple digesting carbs, but then I'm also going to have, the protein and the fat with it. Because in that moment that you're sick, you're not going to feel like eating it. But if you've got the pancakes pre-made and you've got the Greek yogurt tub right next to you in the fridge, you can force yourself to do it and you'll probably feel better in 15 minutes, right? So when you're feeling good, go ahead and do some meal prep and meal planning and hold yourself accountable to it. Because in the moment, it's really hard when you don't feel good. All right, second trimester is when your nutrition needs actually do increase legitimately from like a caloric standpoint. This is really individualized, but if I go back to my old nutrition textbooks, it's going to tell me that your nutrition needs are increased by about 350 calories per day. But man, oh man, is this individualized. And I think physical activity plays a role here too, just with like caloric need and things like that, because if you can maintain physical activity throughout pregnancy, wonderful. And then your caloric needs may increase even a little bit more to help your body recover and make sure you're getting enough nutrition needs for the child. But then it's flop. Like if you're an athlete and you're used to training 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then because of pregnancy, you no longer can do that. Or maybe it's like, man, now I'm just walking, or I'm only doing an hour a day, or I can only do a few days a week because I just really don't feel good. And it's not just the nausea I was talking about, not feeling good. It's in second trimester, your body shape is changing. With my first pregnancy, I had a lot of ligament pain. So I was running at the time and I was not able to run throughout pregnancy because I was having severe like leg pain and ligament pain as my body was preparing and changing for this baby to come. I was actually struggling to walk without pain. So all I could do during that pregnancy was weight lift. Riding a bike even hurt as well. I tried to do the Peloton, but even that like leg movement really hurt me. So that comes into play as well of like, okay, are we still exercising? So we have increased nutrition needs and we're exercising, or do we have increased nutrition needs, but now I'm actually not exercising like I used to? Then maybe your nutrition needs are kind of like right around the same as they would be if you weren't pregnant, right? If you take away the exercise piece, but now I have increased needs because of pregnancy, but it kind of might even itself out. And this is highly variable based on how much training and exercise you're doing and what level of athlete you were. But again, just like from the needs of like, hey, how much more does the baby need and your body to support the growth and development? It's about 350 calories extra per day during second trimester. And then third trimester, it does bump up even more to about 450 calories per day. And that's because in the third trimester, the baby grows even more. So let's see, I entered third trimester at 28 weeks. I'm now 32 weeks. You can fact check me. You can Google this. I might be a little bit off on this, but it's something like at this point, the baby is gaining like half a pound per week. Like entering third trimester, the baby inside my belly is weighing maybe around like 3 pounds. And then before birth, so in the final like 12 weeks, it's going to get to maybe like 7 pounds, maybe 8 pounds. Some people have babies at 6 pounds. That's a little small. Some people have babies at 9 pounds. That's a little big, but it happens. Some people have babies at 10 pounds. You never know. But in that third trimester, the baby itself gains weight really fast. So whereas like first and second trimester, you're starting to grow a baby, but you are also growing an organ. You're growing a placenta. Did you know that you grow a whole extra organ? You develop and create a whole extra organ. You don't just have a baby inside your belly, you have a placenta that doesn't exist there when you're not pregnant. You create an organ and a baby at the same time. So that's happening first and second trimester. You're increasing, your body shape is changing. And then third trimester, that baby itself is actually putting on weight. Newborn babies have very little body fat on them, but they do have some because that's what the last few weeks of pregnancy do. So in the last few weeks of pregnancy, women can gain 0.5 pound to 1 pound a week. That's why I said earlier, the last few weeks of pregnancy are really hard because even if you've been like maintaining your own personal fitness or movement or feel like, oh, my back pain's not too bad, if suddenly you gain 1 pound a week in your final 4 weeks, you feel that. You feel that. You can also have a lot of fluid retention in your final few weeks. So you might be gaining extra weight that's just fluid as well. This happens to a lot of women in their final few weeks. It's not just the baby gaining weight, it's their body. And you can see it with like swollen ankles or swollen fingers. And this is something to monitor as well. Just with your doctor, we want to make sure that there's not too much fluid retention and too much swelling, but some is normal and expected. And at that point, you should be having weekly checkups with your OB doctor as well. So if you are at risk of preeclampsia, which is essentially hypertension or high blood pressure throughout pregnancy, they'll be monitoring you for that, checking your blood pressure every visit, monitoring this fluid retention as well. Also, before entering third trimester, you do get tested for gestational diabetes by taking a oral glucose tolerance test where you do drink 50 grams of straight glucose, which is about 200 calories of straight glucose. You're supposed to be fasting before going into it. You drink this, your blood glucose is going to rise and spike, and then an hour later, they test your blood sugar to see how high did it spike. Gestational diabetes can happen to people who do not have diabetes, people who are not at risk of diabetes, people who lead perfectly like healthy lives prior to pregnancy. Pregnancy just does crazy things to your body. And if you do develop gestational diabetes, it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It can just be the hormones that are going through and the growth of this baby. But it is important to check for it because both mom and baby's health outcomes are at risk with gestational diabetes. So you're going to be healthier without gestational diabetes. I'm saying it's not your fault necessarily if you do get it, but if you have it, it is very important to then take action and try and throughout that third trimester, monitor your blood sugar, watch those simple carbohydrates and sugar intake, because if your blood sugar is running high throughout third trimester and then the baby's getting higher blood sugar, you can have a baby that's somewhat larger for size that can impact very, very slightly either the baby's health immediately after birth with some blood sugar issues that should normalize. It might impact their long-term health, and it impacts yours as well. And back to the exercise piece. I'm trying to focus on nutrition, but if you can maintain some exercise throughout pregnancy, that does help. Both cardio and resistance training throughout pregnancy can lower your risk of health complications for you and baby throughout pregnancy, including gestational diabetes. And I quickly did a little research, and a lot of women do choose to do more low impact exercise throughout pregnancy, more so just out of comfort. That's where I'm at right now. It's not that I'm like, oh, stop running throughout pregnancy. No, if you can keep running, keep running. I'm at a point right now where my belly is huge. I have a huge baby in my belly right now, and my back hurts, and it does not feel good to run. And this is my third pregnancy, and every time I try to run, I pee, even though I've been to a pelvic floor therapist. But now that I'm pregnant, I fixed it before, but now that I'm running and I'm pregnant and I've got this basketball size baby in my belly, I was like, this is just not comfortable. I'm in pain. I don't want to run throughout pregnancy. So I'm choosing to cycle. I'm choosing to walk. It feels better. But also the resistance training is huge in here as well. So the resistance training is really helpful for reducing risk of gestational diabetes as well. So if you can keep that up on any level, and I say keep it up while also like going through it personally, like I'm doing exercise, but it is nowhere near what I used to do. So you have to really humble yourself. If you are an elite or professional athlete, perhaps your body is more trained and prepared to handle more throughout pregnancy, but even you will be humbled. And then if you are recreational or recreationally competitive, which is the category I consider myself in, I'm humbled. And I think during my first pregnancy, I was really bummed that I could not run. Second pregnancy, I did run until 6 months, and then I got sick. This was like an immune system issue. I had upper respiratory tract infections. I was coughing a lot. In fact, hold on, I wrote this episode down. Yes, episode number 132, chronic heartburn and GERD throughout pregnancy. That's another symptom. Sorry, another huge symptom that I struggled with throughout all my pregnancies is heartburn and GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is something I have. And then throughout pregnancy is just miserable. Huge dietary implications there. So if you struggle with heartburn, I highly encourage you to listen to 132, episode number 132, if you're struggling with heartburn throughout pregnancy. Going back to what I was talking about, in my second pregnancy, my leg pain was gone. I was running up until 6 months pregnant. And then when I was sick, my sickness actually correlated, upper respiratory issues then correlated to my heartburn. And I had a chronic cough. So it was really interesting, but I could not keep up with exercise or running specifically because I had this chronic cough. I was very sick. It actually had to do with heartburn as well. So check out episode number 132. And then, as I've already alluded in the first half of this episode, this pregnancy, I was doing pretty good. It was managing the nausea, but I had too many life changes. I had 2 toddlers. I was moving across the country. I did get sick for a little bit. I finally recovered, but I felt like second trimester, I got into exercise pretty good. And now in third trimester, I'm just exhausted. I'm a stay-at-home mom of a 4-year-old and a medically needy 2-year-old, nearly 3. And I'm carrying I have a huge belly. I joke about that, but it's just the way that my body carries babies. Everybody's body changes differently, and mine it's a very traditional pregnancy look where like there's like, I call it a basketball, or honestly it's like a beach ball just sticking out of my belly. It's wild, but not everybody carries babies the same. There's not one right way that it looks. I've seen things online of people who are 25 weeks pregnant and they don't look it to me, but they still are, right? And then at 25 weeks, I was like, wow, I look like I could give birth tomorrow. Like it's everybody's different. Okay. So getting back to third trimester, the making sure with your glucose tolerance test that you're good. If you're good, then great. Don't, worry about it. If you don't pass, you'll have to go back for another test just to double check things. And then they will hopefully instruct you on just how to be, honestly, it's all about pairing protein with carbohydrates and then having complex carbohydrates, eating every few hours. So we're just helping control insulin and blood sugar release. A few other small notes on nutrition throughout pregnancy from a safety place, like there's some things that you want to avoid. It's really just you don't want to expose yourself or your baby to any bacteria that could become harmful. One of the most dangerous ones because it can actually like cross the placental barrier is listeria, and that's often found in like deli meat. We don't want to get salmonella. So it's just things like, okay, we should probably avoid the foods that are high risk of these. So that would be like unpasteurized milk, unpasteurized eggs or fluids, to include like if you're traveling to another country, like maybe buying bottled waters just to be safe. There's some unpasteurized juices that you would want to avoid. Avoiding raw meat. That's just a higher risk of contamination. I've eaten unpasteurized foods and deli meat and raw meat, some, whether it be fish or sushi, whatever, and have not contracted these diseases. And so one could argue, oh, I haven't done that my whole life, or not disease, these bacterias and stuff. Oh, I've done that my whole life and I've never been sick. So I could probably do it throughout pregnancy and also not get sick. Possibly, because that's why you do see some women still eat sushi throughout pregnancy because, but it is a higher risk. And then it's a higher risk because if you do get it throughout the time that you're pregnancy, it's a risk to your health and your baby's health. So if you can avoid these things, soft cheeses is another one. Foods that are really high in mercury, which are like big fish, like shark and swordfish, but like you're good to eat some tuna and salmon a couple times a week. So those are just things you want to be cautious of, reduce. The deli meat is a hard one for me personally in trying to get protein throughout pregnancy. I was still buying deli meat, but I am one that's like, okay, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to eat it these first 2 days. I'm not going to eat it on like day 5, because the longer that it's in your fridge or on your countertop, the more contaminated it could be. Also be very cautious of like hot food bars or picnics or birthday parties and events with family style meals. That's where sometimes there can be higher risk of contracting a foodborne illness that, to again, a normal person, maybe they're just up throwing up for 1 night or 2 nights, but it could be worse, and it could be worse if you're pregnant. So you want to be careful of those foods. And then from a nutrition standpoint, taking a prenatal throughout all of pregnancy, we really do need to increase that folate. And just FYI, folate is from leafy greens, beans, poultry, and fortified foods. So like fortified cereals or eating chicken and turkey, eating some black beans and kidney beans and kale and spinach. That will all help you increase your folate, but supplementation is wise. Iron as well. Hopefully your doctors do check your hemoglobin, hematocrit, iron, folate, total iron binding capacity. Hopefully they run a full iron panel, but that it is expected. Like my current hemoglobin, hematocrit is lower than when I wasn't pregnant, but it's like considered normal for pregnancy. But even still, I was like, I'm going to add a little bit more iron. So add more iron to your diet, or maybe a gentle iron supplement that you can tolerate that doesn't make you feel sick, especially if your prenatal doesn't have iron in it. So check that, because I was taking a prenatal with iron and it was making me feel quite sick. So I switched to prenatal gummies, which were great, but they didn't have iron in them. And then I switched to prenatal gummies with iron bisglycinate that I know doesn't upset my stomach and doesn't make me feel as sick. So that's why I added iron supplements in, because it wasn't in my prenatal. But you don't necessarily want to add extra iron on top of your prenatal, or discuss that with your doctor or dietitian. But your iron needs are increased. So 27 milligrams a day when you're pregnant. That's a lot. That's a lot of iron, and you'll feel tired and fatigued. I feel very tired and fatigued throughout pregnancy, and that's part of the reason your needs are highly increased for iron. So normally a menstruating woman needs 18 milligrams a day, compared to a man might only need 9 milligrams of iron a day. So you lose iron through your blood through menstruation, 18 milligrams a day. Well, now the demand of growing a baby in a placenta inside your body, your needs are 27 milligrams a day. So really get some red meat in. There's non-meat sources of iron, but you're going to need supplementation at that if you are vegan or vegetarian for sure. So get your red meat in, take your prenatal with iron, or if your prenatal doesn't have iron, consider additional iron, 27 milligrams a day. One more micronutrient that has become more popular for dietitians to talk about throughout pregnancy is choline. And one of the easiest ways to get choline is through eggs. So if you can, eat some eggs throughout pregnancy a couple times a week, or even every single day, whether it be scrambled eggs, fried eggs, or eggs mixed up into potato salad or something like that. Egg salad, it would be great. Do scrambled eggs into a chicken veggie stir fry rice, something like that. Some eggs with that choline in there can be really important. Well, listeners, this was a longer episode than I expected. So thank you for listening all the way to the end if you have, because that means you also listen to what's going on in my life. And I will just remind you again, hit subscribe. This podcast is not over. I have new episodes coming, a new episode next week. And I'd like to get a pregnancy expert in here as well. There's been so many amazing athletes, female athletes that are continuing to compete, whether postpartum or as moms or it's just like, it's amazing. Maybe I can get some of them on as well, just because this is something that it wasn't happening as much 20 years ago. In fact, pregnancy was, phew, oh my gosh. Well, it's still an issue when it comes to sponsorships. When we've had lots of good athletes speak out about that, about like companies and sponsors that and teams that maintain their contracts or drop them during pregnancy. This is still a current issue. And so, to the companies that are maintaining their contracts and knowing pregnancy is a phase of life, and that a woman, there are so many ways that we have to be cautious of our body during pregnancy, and yet it doesn't mean that we are weaker. It's really an amazing process. You are growing life in your body. Like, the strength of your body to do that is mind blowing. And because it takes so much strength to do that is why I've scaled back on other things in life. But it is absolutely amazing. We don't want to view pregnancy as like an injury or a disability or something like that. Like, no, this is an amazing thing that the strong female body is uniquely capable of handling. But it is hard. It puts a ton of stress on your body. And again, going back to many of our high level elite professional athletes, they're still navigating the world of how do they maintain their contracts and their income and their pay and their sponsors throughout this and the postpartum period. But we've got some really great examples, because this stuff just wasn't happening 20 years ago, but it is happening now. So maybe I can get some of those people on this podcast, some experts in this space coming up. So hit subscribe so that you can follow along. And I'm still here for female athlete nutrition, maybe just less or less frequently, or maybe I'll pick back up again another year from now, who knows? But I am embracing motherhood and raising soon to be 3 young boys, raising 2 and growing 1 right now. So wish me luck at this phase of my life. Hit subscribe, stay tuned, and lindseycortes.com. I'm keeping my website up. I still have plenty of resources, 258 past episodes. Thank you for listening. Continue to follow, and we'll see you another time.
Thanks so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Please help spread the message of empowering female athletes to be fierce, fit, and fueled by giving this podcast a 5-star review and leaving a comment. You can also help more female athletes by sending this episode to a friend. Head to lindseycortes.com for more resources, information, more episodes, ways to work together, downloadable guides, and ebooks. And if you're interested in becoming a guest on the show or have a guest suggestion, head to lindseycortes.com/podcast, and there's a form for you to fill out to get on the show. Hey, there's more resources on my YouTube channel, Female Athlete Nutrition, Instagram @female.athlete.nutrition, and private Facebook group, Female Athlete Nutrition. I think you get the point. I'm here to support female athletes by fueling better and becoming fierce, fit, and fueled. Most importantly, if you need help, reach out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next show.